Hello everybody. Welcome to Meet the Devs episode 13. And today joining me we have Tessa and Colin, our level designers here at Notorious. You guys met them in a previous episode, I think episode 5, where they did talk about a bunch of other stuff, but they also hinted at a brand new level coming out, the Crypt map. And the time has come. We just had a little sneak peek last time, but now they're gonna show it all. So just as always, we'll have a little presentation. They'll talk about the challenges and the design of it, the philosophy, and at the end of it, we'll have a Q&A section, and you guys can ask your level design related questions. And we have also a little announcement at the end for this weekend. But yeah, I believe we're just gonna start off with them introducing themselves, and I think we have Colin here, the first one in the slides.
Yep.
Oh wait, my slides were cooked. Oh my god! If you're on Twitch,
no.
the big reveal was the first slide.
Oh, Andre, dang it!
All right, it's all good now. If you guys want to share the slide for Discord people as well, I can't do that as well. What was it? You missed it? It's okay. You'll see it at the end.
Yeah, it was nothing.
It was
you mean
nothing.
Screen share the deck.
Yeah, if you could stream share the deck. If not, I can try to do it myself. Yeah, if you guys can do it.
It'd probably be better if you do it, Andre, since it'll just switch back and forth between me and Colin.
Sure. Give me 1 second then. I need to open it. It's the classic technical difficulties. What would the Meet the Devs be without it? I mean, you guys can start, I guess. I have the Colin one open on Twitch, and I will do my best to share screen as well in a second. Let me find it.
Like Andre already said, my name is Colin Volrath. I am a level designer here at Noto. I've been in the industry for on and off roughly 15 years, and the bulk of that time was spent working at Blizzard Entertainment as a level designer, working on World of Warcraft, building pretty much anything and everything that that game kind of has to offer, from dungeon design to zone design, raids, arenas, PvP related things, battlegrounds, major city type stuff, you name it. And I was there for a little over 8 years. I was trying to do the math the other day. Before that, I cut my teeth mostly doing freelance work, working on FPS shooter type games, predominantly Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source, and doing freelance work. That was kind of what I did before I kind of landed my dream job at Blizzard, doing LD there. And then I made the jump over to Noto and kind of got the whole world building level design aspect going as sort of one of the sort of original members of the team. I've been here, we're coming up on 4 years. It's crazy. Doing all the LD related things to kind of get the game jump started from there. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of my short and sweet version of me.
Awesome. Thank you about that. Now we have Tessa. You want to tell us about yourself a bit?
Sure. Similar to Colin, I've been in the industry for quite a while. I think this will be my 17th year. And I've dabbled in level design, systems, content. I've pretty much handled a little bit in every aspect of design through my career. And I pretty much got my start at a place, Cheyenne Mountain. That's where we tried to do the Stargate MMO, and that was a whole debacle. But I worked at Ascended. I worked at 2K, which was my dream studio because I was a big BioShock fan, and worked on XCOM, which was great. And I really do love my 2K family. And worked at Kabam, worked on Star Wars, worked at Gazillion, worked on Marvel Heroes, Spirit Lords. I've been in a mishmash of multiple different types, console to mobile to pretty much everything. Worked on person action adventure, first person shooters. So it's been a super cool ride, honestly, to work in the industry. Met a lot of great folks.
Yeah, so awesome. Both are level designers, very based, and I think it shows in the level design of the map. And for this one, they got to try something very different from Greenwood, which is big, open map. I mean, it has a little bit of everything. It has underground, it has tight places, big open spaces. But for this one, it was a completely different environment. So I'll just let you guys talk about the designing a dungeon. What was that like?
Very different than Greenwood. A lot of different challenges that we had to sort of figure out. When we started this, I don't know how clear. Like we always do, like this. I like to do these. They're like a whiteboard jam, and these are just like throw ideas on a wall, and we do this with the whole team. And one of the main goals when we did this map is it needs to feel different than Greenwood, right? Greenwood is an open, exploratory, you're sort of Mario, like it needs to kind of check a lot of boxes, but not be a very specific themed map. It's meant to be a more introductory map that kind of brings you into the game and teaches you a little bit how to play. So for this one, we wanted to kind of do a little more of a stressful, I like the word controlled chaos, right? Like it's the lots of PvP, lots of engagements, fast, sporadic, chaotic combat, and kind of see what that feels like. So the map is filled with a lot of PvE engagements, but it's also filled, as we play tested it, a lot of PvP engagements kind of spinning up, lots of third party and stuff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we also wanted to play with the verticality of the map. We wanted to make sure that the navigation on the map was clear, so we pushed things like theming, wings and things like that, various flavored things, and those things are intentional, and they're intended to drive navigation so you don't get lost, because it's very easy to get lost in an all interior map where you're constantly kind of enclosed by walls on all four sides. The claustrophobic vibe kind of can create the anxiety of I don't know where I'm going.
Right, I do
that was
remember,
kind of our.
I was just gonna say I do remember.
That was sort of the goals.
I do remember in the start when we were playtesting this map and it was just a blockout phase. Like a lot of people's feedback was they were getting lost in it because, like you said, a lot of the corridors kind of it's a corridor, and it was a new map for us, so we were getting lost a lot. So actually, I had this as a question, but you pre-answered it. Like, how would the player kind of know where they are and orient themselves in the space? But you kind of answered that by the various elements.
Yeah, and also on the art team specifically, like they've done a really good job of using lighting as you play through this map, right? It's kind of like a cake, right? Like your top layer of the cake has more natural light poking through with like sun shafts and more yellow tones and natural lighting kind of coming through, so you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'm on the top floor of the map, there's roots kind of like cracking through and that kind of stuff, and then there's like an orange colored layer in the middle, and that's and then the bottom layer kind of changes to this sort of skeleton necro-y green vibe. So you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'm on floor 3, floor 2, etc., etc. And that was feedback from the team pretty early on of what if we tried not only theming it with wings and like this is the armory wing, I'm just giving out random names, but like this is the armory wing, this is the bell wing, this is the healing wing, yada yada yada, right? But then let's add lighting in as well to sort of double down on making the navigation clear.
Right. By the way, guys, let me know when to go to the next slide because I don't know. Just what's the code?
Yeah.
What's the code for the
next
slide?
I can. No, I'm. These other bullets. These are pretty. Some of these are in the old slide too. Of just, we still want to encourage exploration from our players in this map. We focus on theme and vibe, which I already touched on, and wings and all that kind of stuff. Hit on that too. And then the class fantasy is still going to be, that's a pillar on the team. We want to make sure that we're hitting class fantasy so that how a warrior or a rogue or a hunter enters one of these rooms, it's going to feel very different. It should feel very different, especially in a close quartered map, right? And then the last part of this is loot. And this is something that we didn't do in Greenwood because we only had the one map, but we want to start playing with taking things that are in Greenwood and making them more exclusive or more predominant in other maps. So like one that comes to mind is like grave moss, right? Like taking things like grave moss and putting it in the dungeon. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't spawn in Greenwood, but like we want it to kind of be like one of those things that's like, and there's a bunch of these, but to push people in and out of the map so they're not just going to the same place. They have to go if they want to get something like that in a large amount. They got to go to the graveyard map or not graveyard map, dungeon map.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think what was actually interesting is that like me and Colin had talked a lot about. We had a lot of powwows about like the different classes and how they'd function within those spaces, and I remember we were talking back and forth about like a lot of the hallway sizes and what feels good with two players in combat with each other, what feels good with different parties against each other. And I mean, I think you can atone to this more, Colin, but this map was definitely more precise. It was a lot more intricate, layout structure, and like a lot more questions that we had to ask that we didn't in Greenwood.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna go next slide. Is that okay? Oh yeah, then Colin just uploaded a high-res picture of the whiteboard.
Spoilers.
Everyone wanted to see the whiteboard, a high definition.
Giving away secrets.
The big secrets. What is level design, iteration testing, and season 1? Oh, season 1's coming soon. And these are some really old images. That's our ogre there in the in the top right.
Oh my god,
correct?
Yeah.
That's our ogre 1.0, and he was skin colored.
Yep.
It's kind of terrifying that he's skin colored, to be honest.
Yeah, we maybe I think we made the right call moving away from that one. And I see the early dungeon was a lot more open. It had like it wasn't underground.
Yeah.
Was the intent to not have it underground, or was that just like for level design so you could see what's happening in the map?
Yeah. So when we did the first version of this map, it's funny because like there's always this funny thing that happens on development teams is like the idea that we don't like ends up coming back around like a year later or whatever, and then it becomes an idea a second time, and then everyone's like, I love it. And this map kind of went through some of that. Like the first version of this map, as you can see in some of these really early, like the ones all on the right hand side of the slide, the map was super vertical. Like the map was it was massive. Like you didn't get a lot of traffic from players, but it was very vertical. And then we did a second iteration, and we kind of crunched the map down and used a lot of the layout language that you see in Greenwood, like in the various crypts and those interior spaces. And then we got the complete opposite feedback, which is I hate being like crammed into a tiny room, and I play a hunter or a priest, and I'm miserable because I'm just getting dumpstered on by like the warrior is just smashing me into a corner, and this sucks, and I have nowhere to go. So we did another one, and we took a lot of that feedback from the team. There were some positives out of the second iteration, which was we got a lot of chaotic PvP going on. I remember it was just nonstop fights. But it lacked thematic wings. It lacked the lighting that I talked about earlier wasn't really in. And it had verticality. That was the thing that people liked even in the first or the second version of this map. So we took those lessons, and then we took some of the lessons from the first one, and then we kind of mushed them into like, okay, let's bring back the bigger rooms, and then let's take some of the lessons from the second one and kind of combine them into a a third sort of amalgamation of an interior themed map. And then on that one, like we got we took a ton of lessons, like I said, from the first. Are we calling it season 1, season 0? What do we call the first season?
0, I guess.
I hear different numbers. Is it 0? Okay. We took a ton of lessons from the first season of the game, of watching people play the game on Twitch, and our player feedback was huge. The play test that we did, where everybody played through this, and just watching how everybody played, watching how many of them played Hunter and had a great time. I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be just Hunter frustration, and they're all playing Hunter and having a great time. I was not expecting that. So that was really interesting to see play out. And then the last bullet here is talking about bosses. And this is still, totally up in the air. But like, one of the things we learned from Greenwood is, put the map out and maybe don't put the boss out with the map, right? I'm not necessarily saying we are doing that, but that was kind of a lesson. So we may or may not play around with that. That's still, TBD. Of let people explore the map, let people enjoy the map, let people play the map and learn where to go, and then we'll, add, if we choose to, add a boss into the space.
Yeah, that's
we just don't know where that is yet.
Yeah. What's the boss gonna be? Is it gonna be you're gonna fit a giant ogre in that underground?
Can't answer that question.
It's already decided.
I know.
I can just throw out five random mobs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I'll take it. Undead Paladin, there it is.
No. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I remember, I have a memory of the second iteration of the map when at the same time we were doing, it was very, very early on, and at the same time we were doing like sound attenuation on footsteps on one of our first playtests, and everyone was saying, I am hearing footsteps anywhere I go, because you could hear people like above you, under you, everywhere you go, like, am I getting paranoid here? Am I hearing voices? And I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. Building a dungeon. Oh, we get to see we get to see some finished product here. So what is this, the same room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What am I looking at? Is this the same room that's been evolving over time?
Yeah, so I call this I just call this the Jimmy Lowe room, because Jimmy Lowe is the guy who did the concept.
Yeah.
He did the drawing in the middle. And the left one is kind of the first iteration of the map, then the concept, then the second iteration, and then the one on the far right is kind of where it's at today. And then the bottom one, same thing. Like that one on the far left, bottom left is, it's the progression of going from blockouts to an artified room.
Yeah, looks good. It makes a big difference when you add all the textures and lighting and all the art as well.
Yeah.
But you can see the space changed a lot as well. It went from the
it
pillars,
got a lot bigger.
The
that was the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest feedback on that room was it was like this major central room in the map, and it needs to. We needed to make it bigger and bigger to kind of allow for lots of interesting engagements between players and also creatures.
Yep, that's a definitely like a strong piece, like a centerpiece of the map, that room. Oh, we have more images. Oh wow, you're like showing a lot. Actually, we have some gameplay footage of people playing in this map during the Q&A, so you'll see a lot more of it in a second. Show gameplay, we will get there. So, yeah, so this is also kind of the same thing. It goes from concept to level blockout, then lighting, then art, and it's just I like the statues we had. The little those statues.
Yeah, you like my ice cream cone?
Oh, you made that? That was your statue?
Yeah,
beautiful.
I made that like 3 years ago, just for funsies.
That's beautiful. That should stay somewhere. That should be like a little secret somewhere, like a tiny little teapot. Yeah, these look. I remember.
Everybody knows what it is.
It's a statue. It looks like a statue. Yep. And it looks good. And the water. I remember you adding the water as well. Yeah, these are very cool.
That classic blue.
Yeah. And then next we have
painful Max 255 blue color.
I remember you made water drops that were just cubes hovering in space. Like
Mhm.
this is a drop of water,
Yeah.
everybody. Like, okay.
Yeah. Shows the intent.
It does, yeah. It helps a lot because without it, I wouldn't know what that is. But you see a bunch of drops, like, okay, it's water. Water dripping from the
Yeah.
ceiling. I get it. Let's talk about encounter theory. Mobs versus players, boss encounters. You want to talk a little bit about this? This slide right
Yeah,
here.
sure. I can gonna
Yeah.
go into that. So I did mainly the spawning for all the dungeon map and the encounters, and I feel like a lot of it is the spawning versus encounters because people use those two words like interchangeably, and they
Mhm.
do mean very different things. The spawning is just literally just putting down the spawns on the map and placements in accordance to the layout itself. And encounters are actually the structure of how you want the mobs to react to the player and vice versa as they enter a space, right?
Yep.
And so with the Crypt map, as Colin was mentioning, it is an interior space, so it's a lot more tight. There's more room, I would say, for mobs to be overwhelming, or it would be incredibly obvious that there's nothing there. Just because it is in such a smaller space, you don't have a lot of vista room, you don't have a lot of things to kind of look at with the layout in that sense. So, with encounters especially, with the crypt map, we wanted to make it a little bit more difficult, right? It's going to be more of a
Mhm.
challenge for players and stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
what how I usually kind of spawn and create the encounters within the map is I create like an initial spawning pass is what I call it. And then that's really just building a baseline. And so what I do is I have a lot of the team play it, and then we have, some VIPs play it probably, and just kind of test it out to see what the feeling is. Because difficulties, especially with encounters, are really in two schools of thought. One is the encounters is just tough with a tough boss. It's just a mob that's incredibly a lot of hit points. It does abilities, it takes up a lot of the room and a lot of space, has a lot of gap closing. And then you have the other theory with making what we quote unquote call difficulty, and that's just a lot of mobs, and they don't have to be incredibly strong, but it could be a lot of normal mobs. It could just have like one elite in there, but it's the amount that you're having to deal with. And so that's really kind of what I played a lot with this dungeon when I laid it out with the encounters is, well, how is a player entering the space? How are they going to feel coming across this mob? Is it a good enough space away? How much of the aggro range do I want the player to encounter and have them basically start the combat with that? How much of the space and the layout do I want the player to go into and substantiate and understand what the layout is and take the look, and so they know where their movements are going to have to be. um, there are instances where I do surprise them with like, hey, it's a mob, oh my god, when you open a door. And those are really just trying to keep the player in their awareness state and keep them on their toes, because that's really what a lot of this game is about, is you want to have enough ebb and flow, especially with the encounters, and how the player kind of like has a little bit of downtime in between, because that's when you really want the player engagement to come across to the other PvP players, and to
Mhm.
have the room in order to have enough PvE, but it not being overwhelming that you're just gonna like, haul a good quarter of the dungeon, and then you encounter three
Yeah.
players and you're like, oh well, okay,
Yeah.
I can't really deal with that, right? So I
It's
mean,
gonna
that's kind
happen.
of like the gist of how, yeah, it is. It is going to happen, but hopefully once you play this, it's going to be, a little bit, um, it's a little bit more controlled, I would say. And, we have a lot more patrols and things like that that I feel like would just bring the whole crypt to life, which is always my favorite part when I do any type of encounters. And especially with boss encounters, I always do like a step-by-step process of how the
Mhm.
player enters the space, and you have to evaluate every step of that, right? So if it's a boss, they enter a space and, say that the player has to activate a MacGuffin. Well, what does that look like? And what other departments are needed for that to work, right? So it's like as you go through the step-by-step process of crafting these encounters in these spawning places, it's super important to just make sure that, it's it's more involved than I think a lot of people think. It's a lot more like cinematography kind of like structure when you're doing like higher level boss encounters, and I think a lot of players can, appreciate that who are in this
Mhm.
staging room. When you play, other games, it is a little bit more impactful and it feels good because it feels like it's a heavy encounter. It feels like it's important. And that's really kind of like what I really want to try to keep rolling into the maps as we do them. So with this map, you're going to have a lot more elites, you're going to have a lot more specials. Of course, with that comes with, a cool amount of loot. And so I'm really interested to see like how the first kind of like the
What's a
the
special?
encounter play style goes. What's special? It's a version of like a mob that basically gives you like it gives you better loot. It's harder. It's not as hard as like an elite, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's in between
Honestly, the
elite and
elites are
normal.
pretty tough. Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's kind of like
animated armor is a
mid-step.
special,
I think that's an elite.
right?
I would say it's a mini
It's a mini
boss,
boss, yeah.
honestly.
Yep.
I would say Wraith and animated armor are really in the mini boss category. And we have mostly, I think, elites. And I'm sure when Skyla gets up here, he can talk more about that and maybe later meet
Mhm.
the devs. But there's a lot. Most of our creatures do have elites and specials. I think very few don't have normals actually. There's some really cool ones that you're gonna see in the crypt also, which I'm excited for people to try out, like
Yeah.
some newish creatures. They're gonna be really cool. And so it's also balancing all those new creatures in with what we currently have as well. And so I really hope that as people play it, that's where my job with the encounters come in, is that we iterate and iterate and iterate, and to make it feel more um, just make it feel better in, like I said before, like the ebbs and flows when you encounter players, because there might be certain spaces that players are going to get to a lot faster, and I'm like, all right, well, I might have to scale down the spawning in that area. And so it's a constant kind of like evaluation of the space, if you will.
Yeah, oh, very thorough explanation. Oh, also, yes, can confirm we do have new creature types, and Tesla had to also figure out kind of how they play, how they feel, and like it's all at the same time. Creatures coming in, and you have to spawn them in a new environment. You have to play test the creatures, but also creatures in the environment. So it's a lot of iteration on that. But yeah, it sounds a
Yeah,
lot more complicated
honestly.
doing it in a tight space than in a big open map, to me at least.
Well, they
It's more
each have their
challenging.
pros and cons, because in open maps, you really do have to fill the space, and well, what does that look like? Because it just
Mm-hmm.
can't be a lot of geo in that, right? So open world, when you're doing spawning, technically, like I feel like that actually ends up being in more cluster pools than it does in a more interior space, or more like a crafted space, or a space what I call is on rails, which is more story driven games. So those are a little bit more, I feel like, more more of like a continuous like kind of like flow, rather than you kind of, what I call them is hubs, like hubs in open world environments, where you kind of come across a cluster and then you're battling through this like one specific area, and then you have a good buffer room. So I think what a lot of people might not know is that as you're like spawning, you're literally testing all the time, and I feel like that's where so much of my time gets put into, is I'm constantly testing and seeing how it feels. Because you can put everything down and be like, yeah, this is good, but you don't really know until you're actually testing in constant, and
Yep.
and that's really how I go into spaces when I test it. Is like, all right, if I'm a player, how is engagement? How quick is it? Do I need it to be quicker? Do I need it to be, longer before they get into that? So it's a lot of like, I always kind of like describe it as like a chess, and that's really what encounters are, is what the mobs or the AI do to the player, and what does the player do in response, and it's just a constant give and take, and it's what I always really loved about it.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, and I can't wait for people
Thank you.
to see it. Actually, they might see a little bit of it because on Twitch, at least, we will have a video playing on the background of a little bit of a playthrough. I don't know how much of the new creatures they'll get
Yeah,
to see. They'll get to see a few probably. Also, I forgot
probably you'll
we
see a few. Yeah.
yeah, well, you'll see a few, but you won't see them in their final stage, because this was some playtests we've done a while back, and they didn't have they're not complete. Art department would like you to know they're not finished in the video you're about to see. And then the final slide, we have one slide left, and I spoiled it for everyone twice now. The final slide is the big announcement for next weekend. A brand new map. Technically, it is a brand new level. It is a castle deathmatch mode. It's a free-for-all. Colin, you want to talk more about this, because this is kind of like your project.
I mean, you were doing all right. It's fine.
No.
Yeah, it's so we're taking the castle from Greenwood, and we're gonna do a spin on it for deathmatch mode. We're gonna try it out as solo first and see how that goes. I believe it's 15 spawns on the map, so it could get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. If that goes well and people like it, it's very easy to then we can just fold it in and do a team version, and see how that plays. But we're gonna start off with the solo version.
Yeah, and we could try out multiple things in the future, perhaps. I'm not promising anything, but there have been ideas floating around of different game modes kind of diverging from this one. Right now, this is a very good way of just going in and just beating each other up. I don't think you can hide in the water. You might be able to walk on water, though.
You can put your feet
Like the
in
beach.
the yeah. You can waltz in the water at ankle deep. But no, I think we collisioned it off just to make it easy.
Just put a kill volume there. If you touch the water, you die. It's a classic. That's a classic.
Still
But yeah,
no release date for what?
That's right. Yeah, your super awesome classes that can't swim.
Release date for the Castle Deathmatch, we'll have it up. It says May 46th. I don't know about that one. It's gonna be up next weekend. So this weekend you'll have the brand new castle map. You get to play it, you get to try it out. Now, yeah, songs right there. He's gonna turn it on for Saturday, he says. 15 players, and if you're asking about the other release date, we're not gonna disclose that right now, the new map, but it's coming soon. It's coming in May soon. Yeah, the game mode is gonna be a free-for-all deathmatch. Just beat each other up, and I believe it's the first person that reaches a certain number of kills wins.
Yeah,
that's what it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have the video of the one you were just playing?
Yeah, I'm doing the in the castle or in the crypt. I just have the crypt. Yeah, I'm playing it on Twitch right now. There it is. Finally playing it. And with this, so if you want to see the video, you go onto our Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Notorious Studios. I can't play it on Discord because I don't know how to do that. But yeah, there's a bunch of links in the chat. And if you guys have any questions for Colin, Tessa, yeah, just Colin, Tessa, not myself. You can raise your hand. I'll invite you on stage. Don't post your questions on the Twitch chat because I have only 2 monitors and I can't. My hands are tied. I can't read that. So yeah, I'll invite some people on stage right now. I also have a backlog of questions in case we need that. Mr. Pepechuga, I'm inviting you over right now. Hopefully. And I hope I don't have to I'm gonna have to edit these frames again, aren't I? Well, until Mr. Pepechuga joins, I wanted to ask you guys, I wrote a question myself, and I think I asked you this on the last time we had you here. What is your favorite place on the new map? Your favorite spot? Something you worked on, or just the best looking or funny story or something? If you have any.
Are you going?
I know my favorite one.
Okay.
It's the one actually.
Go ahead.
It's the one that Colin did actually. It was one of your last iterations. It's the really cool it's a center room. It's one of the center, like what we call like the octagon rooms, and it's on the eastmost of the map, and it's the one that you have the ivy that was hanging down and the water dripping down. and it was such a really neat kind of play space with like the first story and the second story, and it had so many great aspects to it, and I had such a fun time just playing around with that map and spawning it in that particular area. I loved it. I thought it was like really cool and creative, and it's so funny because Colin's like, oh, I just did this like a day ago. I'm like, oh. It's like, I hate you.
That's a good one. What about you, Colin?
That's the cistern, and it sucks because it's the same
cistern.
room I liked making. Because it was
Oh,
the one that, yeah. I more so liked. It was nice to have a. We like when I was blocking out that room. We wanted to create a. I wanted to create like some navigational language. So like it's meant to, a cistern is obviously like it collects rainwater and yada yada yada. But I also added these channels. Like there are these water channels that kind of are on the floor that you see in a lot of medieval cities and things where they're meant to be like gutters back in the day. Yeah. So I took some of that language as an idea to help guide players through the story a little bit to kind of connect up to it, and that language kind of carried through the map in a couple different spots, which I thought was kind of neat. It helped make that bottom part of the map a little more navigationally, like you knew where you were. If you saw that kind of language, if you see water, you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'm on the bottom floor.
Yeah, that helps
for
a
the
lot.
most part.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, and previous to that room was called it was just like a square room. It had no identity, and every other room was kind of coming online, and it became like, the eyesore room where you're like, gosh, God, I hate this room, I hate this room, I hate this room, I hate this room, as all the other rooms were coming online, looking real nice. And then I was like, all right, let me just try some stuff, just to see what would work and what didn't, because it wasn't even concept, and it just kind of came to be.
So you guys like the same room?
Yeah, this in the video, they're literally in the room on Twitch right now.
They're
playing in that room.
There it is. Timed it perfectly. We got Pepechuga in. He joined for the question. Hello, sir. Hello?
Hello?
Hello. He's not speaking. Do we just go next?
You gotta go next.
Pepechuga, you gotta fix your microphone. Move to audience. I banished them. I'm gonna get Goofy in. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. Question I got from my chat was, is there going to be a boss in this map? And if so, can we have spoilers about it?
Goofy, you're the boss. When you join the map.
Wait, who, what? I'm the boss?
I said you're the boss when you join the map.
You're now the boss.
Uh-oh.
You have to be
I
on
don't think
call
people are gonna
all
be
the
too
time.
afraid of me.
You gotta join with a
People
bunch
wanna
of
fight you.
legendaries, so you can have loot for them.
Alright, so no spoilers just yet.
Yeah, I mean, no
Who wants to answer the
spoilers,
boss
but
question?
I think that it's, I don't want to say 100%. What's it gonna, 99%? Yeah, there probably is gonna be a boss. Now, when that's gonna drop, I have to be mum about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We have
Yeah.
a location for where we kind of want the boss in the map. Sort of like it's penciled in. In terms of what it is. Like Tessa said, it's still it's
just needs
changed.
more time to cook.
It's changed like 5 times.
Yeah.
To different things.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Pretty sure it's not an ogre though.
It's probably not.
Yeah.
I can at least probably safely say an
Give me
ogre
that.
probably won't be in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Goofy.
Of course, thank you.
Alright, we got Pepechuga. He's asking for one more chance. So So I'll get him back.
guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
hello.
What the
Yeah.
hell? I swear I was doing everything on my. Jeez.
You
Well,
fixed it.
thank you for the chance, Amboni. Hi, Tess. Hi,
course.
Colin. Just wanted to thank you for
Hi.
this beautiful game. I love the leveling design that you done. I'm enamored with this game. It's the best thing I've seen in many years. And actually, my question was originally for Chris, but I guess he's not here today. And so I just keep it brief. Are you, in general, guys? I'm asking actually Amboni. Sorry here. Are you guys happy with the balancing overall of the characters and the classes? Are you planning a massive rebalance for the classes when the new wipe comes in? What are your plans with that? I'm a main warrior and I'm really unhappy. See ya. Thank you.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, Pepechuga, after all the chances. Sure, that's a very valid question. We hear it a lot, and the political correct answer here is, I mean, it's not even politically correct. It's the truth. We are making a lot of changes to a lot of classes that we have not made public. There's a bunch of perks getting changed. Obviously, there's a new class getting added. There's a bunch of different changes that we have already made internally to, like, the hunter, the warrior has new skills. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say all these things because there's a bunch of, like, unannounced things. But the TLDR is definitely a lot of changes coming to classes, and I think we do a decent job at least knowing what's broken and what's OP, and we are, like, smacking things over the head. We're not, like, super happy with necessarily. We're not saying everything's perfectly balanced. It's never gonna be balanced. Balance is boring. I don't know if that's the
I think that was
correct
good,
answer.
Andre. You kept it vague enough.
No,
No, I mean, it is. You know
Am I a
what?
good politician?
Balance
With
is
live
boring.
games, you're always balancing. It's just, more importantly, like, we hear what a lot of our players are saying.
I played a lot of
think
WoW,
that's-
okay? I know how to respond to these things. They
Oh,
don't say that part out loud, though.
my bad.
Alright, I'm gonna invite another person here. Sorry, I can't see the names of people I'm inviting. That's why I don't say who I'm inviting, because I just don't know. I just see O. So, hello, Mr. O.
Hey, how's it going?
Yo.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Cool. Yeah, I just had a question about, like, specs and talents, and if you ever see, for example, like, something I enjoyed about WoW specifically is, like, you could be a fire mage, frost mage, arcane, kind of like specializing within a class. For example, like, maybe there's a rogue spec that's more heavily focused on poison or shadow damage. Do you ever envision the talents kind of getting to that point where you're making decisions about, hey, I'm not going to go down this path, I'm going to strengthen this aspect of the class, or just kind of, like, depth of the talents like that? And then I guess two-parter, if I could, like, weapons, I'm a hunter guy, and, like, on the depth comment, like, anything about adding, like, dash attacks to, like, the medium bow, or some of the like, some weapons like the death ball are super fun because they have, like, 8 options of attacks. You can block, throw your ball, right, do all these things. Like, is there any plans to add some of the staple kind of actions to some of those weapons that might be missing? Sorry for the long two-parter, but I wanted to ask those and never got on stage, so thought I'd rip them.
Yeah, that's more of a, like, class design question for Chris. Once again, again, some of the things you are asking for are internally being, like, changed. Not all of them. And as far as depth goes, the plan right now is to keep perks. We'll consolidate perks once again and, like, well, first of all, fix perks that are broken, and also just change a bunch of them and give them more depth. But the plan is to have perks which are the kind of like the pseudo talents you get from picking what gear you want, and that would be kind of the depth of the customization of the class. That plus skills you select. So that's kind of the plan right now. Is that good? Nailed it?
Thanks.
Good job.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
job.
Yeah, guys, could we get some level design questions in here? Alright, we got. I mean, I
Well, now
understand.
there's all this talk of karaoke from Sung. I kind of want to know what that is.
Yeah, we'll get Song in here to sing some karaoke next.
Yeah, what was he gonna sing?
And we'll
There you
find out
go.
soon. Hey.
Hey,
Hey.
thanks for inviting me over. Level design question, not as specifically about the level design of a specific map, but just the flow between maps. Right now, everything is instanced in like singular. So Greenwood is Greenwood, allegedly Greenwood Night will be Greenwood Night, and then Crypt is Crypt. Do you guys have plans to connect the maps like kind of the way that extracts work in like games like Dark and Darker and maybe Escape from Tarkov, where there's transitions between maps? Or are you guys going to maintain just single instance versions of the maps? Because I think that would be kind of cool, but storage space would be an issue, but that's something that could be addressed at a later time.
Right. It's not off the table. I mean, if you remember, Tarkov didn't do that until, God, what was that? It was like a year or two ago. It was pretty
Yeah, it was a
recent,
year.
Pretty
where they
recent, yeah.
started, and I think we're kind of still in the, you know, sort of crawl walk stage of this, where we want to just push maps out and get them into everybody's hands and then kind of see how the gameplay plays out from that, right? So there's technical aspects to how to connect those maps. What does that actually look like? There's systems that have to play into it, right? If you look at Tarkov's, like, it's not just turning in and leaving, right? There's a transit system, there's a whole quest system that's tied around it. Then they added a marathon mode that tied into it. Now there's the labyrinth that's part of Shoreline. So Street, is another huge map that they made, right? But like that was like probably what, their 10th or 11th map by that point. So we want to kind of like, it's not like we're not against the idea of doing it. We would just have to figure out how can we make it work for our game, so that it feels like a legacy type mode that would actually make sense and drives player behavior and traffic. But right now it's like let's push out the other maps we've talked about. Like we've talked about doing a farm map, which is more of like a pre-Greenwood intro map. We're doing nighttime Greenwood, right? Like we want to get more maps into everybody's hands so that we can start to see how that plays with people, so that everyone's not just living in Greenwood all day long, which does get boring after you're running the same map over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Like that's why we want to get more maps in everybody's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crypt was awesome, by the way, guys. So thank you so much. It was really fun to like mess around in for like a few hours.
Awesome.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah, it looked like everybody was just having lots and lots of PvP, which is great.
Yeah, expect to die a lot in that map. That's what I learned. Or just or just be a rat.
Yeah.
Well, Rogue, very good on that map. Perfect class for that map. It's in theme as well. Alright, we got a brand new question here from a person whose name I can't see, but I did invite them on stage. Hello.
Oh, hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I had a question about like boss design, and what have you guys seen from the Morthog boss that you liked, that you disliked, that you plan on changing, and if the new boss will be like completely different, if Morthog's going to change a lot. I don't know if you guys do boss or just like level design overall, but
I mean, it's kind of like a two-parter in that sense. So we're working with AI design, and level design also kind of functions within that same space, because we are building the area where the boss lives. So I think more than anything, we learned a lot from Morthrog, and that encounter and the space and what needs we're going to have to make and what changes we're going to have to do to make it more, just a little bit more like, I want to say like constitutional. It's more, it's right now it just kind of struggles with a couple things, but we're very aware of what those issues are. So we're actively trying to design like, ways that we can benefit the player in the space and have it fulfilling and still make it feel like it's a really great boss encounter. So it's something that we're really working with AI right now, with the design, particularly Skylar, and just trying to make sure that when we do the boss for the crypt, that we learn from those lessons that we did with Morthrog, and try to make a more cleaner experience, something that's going to be very engaging for you guys. So it will most likely be very different. It's the structure, just because the space in general, it's going to be the interior space in the crypt. So that's going to be fun to kind of play around with, like how the boss is going to function within that, and what type of boss we're going to have. So more than anything, it was a really good kind of learning experience to see like what the pitfalls we'd have to avoid for boss encounters in the future.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you for the question. I think we have time for one more. So, Tessa, do you want to give me a number from 1 to 9, and I'll invite someone?
What? Let's go with lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. There it is. It's Mr. Beard. I don't see
How's it
names.
going, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, so I had a question about the Night Greenwood map. I'm just curious about how the mobs are going to work on that map. Is it going to be, are we just going to see like a bunch of white wolves instead of black wolves? What's it going to look like for mob wise?
We should get color in here.
We're gonna have
we,
some different
have
mobs.
we shared any of that?
I don't
yeah, I
think
mean,
we've
we're gonna
shared
have
the
some-
new creatures.
Yeah, we haven't shared. It's still a work in process, but what I can say is there are going to be different mobs for that map yet. So I think we're going to talk about that one probably at a later date, right, guys?
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
a
know.
whole Meet the Devs, I think, that covers
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Nightwood,
Right.
like from pretty
Yeah.
much beginning to end, and what
Yeah.
what the philosophy around that is.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
there will be
Okay.
different
Face the
mobs.
question.
Yeah.
There will be different mobs. I know that I can at least say that is planned. It's not just like the same. It's not just Greenwood, and it's meant to be different. It should
Mhm.
feel different. It should feel more dangerous than daytime Greenwood.
Yeah, harder mobs for sure. And it's not just a white wolf. It's not just a skin recolor. It's like completely different monsters. So, yeah. Thank you for the question. Oh, yeah, next week we'll have a different panel, and we'll have level art, I think, talk about the Greenwood Knight. So then we might show all the new creatures, maybe, next week. I'm not sure what they want to show. But I think we're at time. It's been an hour. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Colin and Tessa, for presenting and talking to everybody. If you guys want to stay and answer more questions, that's totally fine. But I gotta go. And
All right.
don't forget.
No, that's great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming.
And I'll see
Love
you in
the
the
support.
deathmatch, the castle deathmatch
Yeah.
this weekend.
Ah.
Try it out. I'll see you there, and good luck.
Cool.
All right.
Good.
Have a beautiful
Thanks,
rest of the day. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.